now, right now. Right 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 now, right now. Oh, I got a real good feeling.
We try to bring you high-quality educational and informational content every single day. Why do you think the price is having such an anemic time? The news story of the hour. Jump onto the chart. Is this the beginning of a massive financial unraveling? We gotta add a little addendum to the show map today. So we start here on the daily. Now, we've been looking at the RSI on Bitcoin's daily chart for the last several days. It always has been, but it's been increasing over the last 50 years since the government has been getting bigger. Try that again. Hey guys, what's going on? Jeb here, and in today's video, we are going to be talking about a major development that I have just found. There is a wallet with about 112,000 Bitcoin in it that has been accumulating ever since May. The first purchase was right around May the 8th. About a month before BlackRock launched their Bitcoin ETF, this wallet had already accumulated well over 80,000 Bitcoin. It currently has 112,000 Bitcoin in just one single wallet. And there's a debate going on in the cryptocurrency space right now about whether or not this wallet could potentially be BlackRock, considering the accumulation took place just before BlackRock announced that they were going to be filing for a Bitcoin ETF, which skyrocketed the price of Bitcoin. And also because of the fact that much of the accumulation happened within 1 month right before that ETF application was announced. We're going to be talking about all of that and more in today's episode of Coffee and Crypto, and also we're going to be looking forward to Friday to see if what we're expecting to happen on Friday, that being the Jackson Hole Economic Symposium, is actually going to lead to a lot of volatility like we think it is. We're going to be discussing all of that today, and I'm very excited to be here. If you are enjoying today's coffee, if you are enjoying Coffee and Crypto lately, if you're looking forward to today's stream, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel if you have not already. Let's go ahead and read chat here, and we will jump straight on into it. Mike Lowry is in chat today, said good morning to you as well. Paul Torelli is in chat. Crypto Mini Bike is in chat. Rocket Metal News in chat. Alex Nybo in chat. Justin Shaw, Jason Barry, Sean O'Brien, Robert Kehoe. Is it Kehoe or is it Keha? Kehoe? You'll have to tell me how that is pronounced. Kehoe. I think it's Kehoe. Well, welcome to Coffee and Crypto, guys. Really appreciate all of you for tuning in. We're just going to go ahead and jump straight on over to a tweet that I posted earlier just to kind of get us started here. I like to give you guys the content right up front, and then we're going to delve into this even more as the day goes on. Whale alert. A newly created Bitcoin wallet has arisen to be the third largest holder of Bitcoin with over 112,000 Bitcoin in just the last 4 months, worth over $3 billion. You can see the graph right here. Accumulation began on the 8th of May. And then they purchased, whoever this is, we still don't know, almost 15,000 Bitcoin, or at least moved about 15,000 Bitcoin into the wallet somewhere around May the 17th. And this has been continuing to increase all the way up until about the end of June. Right now, the wallet is just sitting on 118,000 Bitcoin. This is a huge development, and it's very, very important that we pay attention to this because, as I said, this is the third largest wallet that holds Bitcoin in the entire industry. And in fact, this is, as far as I'm aware, probably the largest single wallet holding Bitcoin. I don't know of another single individual wallet address holding this much coin. If you look right here, you can see the wallet address. It's right there. It's right there. That's the wallet address. If you want to donate, because they're running, they're running a little bit out of money. So listen, if you want to help to support the fund, then you can go ahead and come right here and you can support whoever this is. I give it 3 candidates, and this is something I talked about in the ongoing post over here. If you guys aren't following me on Twitter, make sure to. You can find all of that information down in the description box down below. Really appreciate you guys for tuning in. But I believe there are 3 major candidates for who this is. This is, well, actually, I'd say maybe 4. This is probably either BlackRock, Coinbase, Binance, or MicroStrategy? I doubt it's MicroStrategy because I doubt that MicroStrategy would move all of its cryptocurrency into one wallet like this. Why would they? MicroStrategy holds about 152,000 Bitcoin, enough to be a candidate for the holder of this wallet. Coinbase and Binance, of course, are large enough exchanges that they have over 100,000 Bitcoin worth of customer deposits in their custody. So it's absolutely possible that it's one of them. I want to talk a little bit today about why I think that it probably... why I think that there's a good chance that it's not BlackRock, but we definitely want to keep that in the back of our mind. Shout out to everybody else who has joined as well. Chris LeBlanc is here. Bobby Smoot is here. Critical Mass Jim says, no, it was Robinhood. Maybe. I thought I saw where it was Robinhood. I don't know if it's been confirmed. If it is Robinhood, that is that's absolutely another possibility. Regardless, though, we're going to talk about that today. Let's start off by looking at Bitcoin. Right now, Bitcoin is trading at $26,000. We've been trading sideways for a while. You guys know that we've talked about over the last several days how Bitcoin has been trading sideways. We've set levels of support and resistance. Yesterday, we put this trade setup in place. This is just kind of a example trade setup, and as you can see, it actually ended up working out just fine. If you had have entered this trade using our trailing stop loss strategy, then you would have been able to make a good amount of money. The market would have dropped all the way down here to negative 1.85%, which if you were in a short trade, a 0.1% stop loss would have given you a 0.175%, 1.75% profit on that short trade, even without leverage. So shout out to anybody who took that trade yesterday, took that example trade, made some money on it. Bitcoin is still trading sideways, though, and we're looking forward to the Jackson Hole Summit right now on Friday. As you guys know, coming up on Friday, we're going to be seeing the Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell speaking at Jackson Hole. Jackson Hole Economic Symposium is from the 24th to the 26th, and there we're going to see policymakers from all over the United States, all over the world, coming together to discuss their opinions on what the market is doing and where the market is going to go next. And it's very exciting to watch because it is one of the biggest events that's taking place right now. So I did want to mention that wallet address briefly. It is possible that it's Robinhood. Again, I don't believe, I have not personally anyway, I could be missing something, but I have not seen any announcement saying that we know who this is. It's possible that it's Robinhood. I wouldn't be surprised if Robinhood had the ability to do that, but ultimately it's going to be a very, very, very large exchange, or it's going to be either MicroStrategy or probably BlackRock. I'd like to kind of think a little bit about why it might be BlackRock, and I'm also going to tell you why it probably isn't BlackRock. So we'll talk about all of that and more in a moment. Let's just go ahead and run over the cryptocurrency market right now. Bitcoin is currently, again, sideways over the last 7 days. We're down about 10% over the last 90 days. We're still basically sideways. We've been sitting in this sideways range for over 90 days now. But the good news is Bitcoin is still up 55.85% year to date. And that should just remind you that a successful investment strategy is thus. It's very important that we dollar cost average and have the basis of our portfolio in consistent investment in a market that we believe will succeed in the long run. The three biggest markets that I would encourage you to look at would be the Bitcoin market, the Ethereum market, and the S&P 500. And the reason I throw the S&P 500 in there is because investing in the S&P 500 on more or less a dollar cost average basis has been the most likely way to generate substantial wealth if you give it enough time with the lowest risk in any point in history in the last 100 years or so. Same thing with Bitcoin. As far as Bitcoin has brought about a huge amount of value. I believe that it's a little bit more risky, of course, than the stock market. It has a higher beta, but that's okay. We know that Bitcoin is a profitable investment. It has been very profitable in times past, and we have every reason to believe that it will continue to be. So the baseline of our strategy should be continual, repeated, either weekly or monthly investment in those markets, especially the S&P 500 and Bitcoin. There's nothing wrong with throwing Ethereum in there. Then that's where we get, after we kind of clear that wrong, do that first. Like if you're getting into crypto, make sure you're doing that. If you're getting into investment, open a Roth IRA, make sure you're there. Boom, you already know that. Make sure you've got dollar cost averaging going into Bitcoin and Ethereum. Boom, you've got that. Now, hopefully we can find some more money in your personal finances and your budget, and we can start talking about trading. And that's where where we start talking about the things that we're discussing today. And that, of course, again, are the concepts of the Fed, meeting on Friday, and also this BlackRock, this potential BlackRock purchase of Bitcoin. Let's talk about that first. There are a few different thoughts that I have on that, because as I said, many people are speculating that this is BlackRock. It could be Robinhood. I think that something that's important to remember is that BlackRock is an ETF creator and manager. They are not actually a major investor of their own money. But when they are investing their clients' funds, take a look at this. This website is going to blow your freaking mind. This is BlackRockVanguardWatch.com. And this essentially shows you the largest investors in every single corporation in the United States of the top 500, the 505 in the S&P 500. 100%, one or the other of these two companies, BlackRock or Vanguard, is the largest institutional investor in 422 or 84% of these companies. You can see the companies right here are listed out by market capitalization. Apple sitting at roughly $2.5 trillion, Microsoft sitting at about $2.25, Alphabet, that being the parent company of Google, sitting at about $2 trillion, Amazon, Facebook, Tesla, Berkshire Hathaway, Nvidia, Visa, JP Morgan Chase, Johnson & Johnson, Walmart, United Health. By the way, if you want to know, every single name that I just listed worth, you'd have to do the math. It's probably around $5 trillion. No, it's got to be around $7 trillion. Every single one of those, the largest holder is Vanguard. And in every single one of those companies, Vanguard owns at least 4.6% of the company. Vanguard owns 10% of Berkshire Hathaway, 7.65% of Apple. BlackRock, right behind them, owning between 3 and 7% of almost of every single one of those companies in the top 10. If you throw State Street in there, State Street, Vanguard, and BlackRock make up the largest three institutional holders in well over 70% of the companies on this list. BlackRock, Berkshire Hathaway, and State Street are the largest members of the board on over 60 to 70% of these companies, where they occupy the 1, 2, and 3 spot. Now, of course, you've got a lot of them that own Berkshire Hathaway. Berkshire Hathaway owns a lot of other companies, such as Apple. But the fact of the matter is, these companies are remarkably powerful. And they're also massively wealthy. The impact of this is very, very scary. And the reason that this is so important, and the reason that I bring this up today as we talk about the Federal Reserve, and while we talk about BlackRock potentially being a purchaser of Bitcoin, is I believe the overall theme of today's stream is the concept of whales. It's the concept of centralized power. I am not intrinsically against there being some centralization of power, because if you are completely against that, then you have to break down every single institution in all of creation. You have to break down the nuclear family unit, because you would have to say that your 2-year-old son has the exact same authority in the family as the mother and father. That's not a kosher system. That's not a system that we should be looking for. Same thing with the government. If every single individual in the entire world is on the exact same plane as far as authority, then every single person makes their own laws. Nobody can enforce anything, and you don't have civilization. I am not fundamentally, from a principle basis, against some kind of central authority. What does become a problem is when that central authority is so vastly powerful over an entire swath of the nation that we end up having these companies that are able to control what the majority of the companies in the United States are doing. You end up finding this area where it's not much better for a company to run everything than it is for a government to run everything, because it's absolutely possible to have too much power vested in one institution, in one company, in one government. There does need to be a certain degree of laissez-faire, decentralized, autonomous authority given to the family unit, given to the individual, given to states, given to local government, given to different companies. The one thing that I will say is that BlackRock, State Street, and Vanguard are asset managers, which means that they are deploying money that is not their own. They're deploying their customers' money. That being said, customers typically and investors typically don't think about their investments in these companies as votes, although they are. That if you do business with someone, you are voting for them to have more market share. The problem also becomes when it comes down to all three of these companies, and all three of these companies sitting on the same board make the same decisions, and they are extremely powerful to influence everything from culture to science to the development of politics to how we fight wars and everything beyond that. So it's something that we want to pay very close attention to when three companies own the majority or the top three spots on every single one of the top 500 companies on the S&P 500. BlackRock and or Vanguard are among the three largest institutional investors for 100% of the S&P 500. Between BlackRock and Vanguard, there is not a single company in the S&P 500 where there is no representation from BlackRock or Vanguard in at least one of the top three spots. It's a massive, massive, massive company. So, how does that tie into our discussion today about the whale wallet? Well, again, one of the things that we're looking out for here in the cryptocurrency space is that there is a tendency for the cryptocurrency space to move towards centralization of ownership of the cryptocurrency itself. And so when you have one wallet controlling 118,000 Bitcoin, that represents an equal centralization of power, because the offloading of even just a few thousands of those Bitcoin are enough to massively, massively move the market. It's fair. It's capitalistic. I'm not saying that it's unfair for one individual to own that much Bitcoin. I'm not going to say that. But what I will say is it's something we need to watch out for. And it's also something that we need to pay very close attention to for another reason. You can think about it like this. Think about the analogy of nuclear war. You might think, Jeb, what kind of analogy is that? The two global superpowers, and there's a third rising global superpower in the nuclear arms race, in the nuclear arms world, are the United States, Russia, and the rising power is China. China is building a large enough nuclear arsenal to be a nuclear superpower on par with the destructive capabilities of the United States and Russia. At each one of those three nations, one individual controls the football, or the black box, if you will. It's something that every single one of those leaders carries around with them, and if at any point they need to launch a nuke, they press a button, and it sends out the codes, and they launch the weapons. That is an extremely extreme amount of centralization. And so anytime any individual company owns that much Bitcoin, it's a little bit like they have the keys to an atomic bomb. So I'm going to tell you why I don't think this is BlackRock. Many people believe that this is BlackRock. Many people don't. People think it's Robinhood. People think it's Gemini. People think it's Coinbase. People think it's... if there's a confirmation of that, feel free to give me an article link. I don't think it's BlackRock, though. And the reason I don't think it's BlackRock is very simple. BlackRock, if they're going to get a Bitcoin ETF approved, they're probably going to try to buy in lower. I would not be at all surprised to see BlackRock try and do something to crash the market. And it's possible that maybe BlackRock or some other company bought this much Bitcoin over the counter for the sake of being able to accumulate and hold into the bull market. But it's also possible that one of those asset managers bought that much Bitcoin because they wanted to sell it and be able to drop the price. BlackRock very, very easily is a large enough company to be able to drop the price of Bitcoin far enough that they would be able to accumulate low. It's very possible and easy, especially if they know something that we don't know at the Fed, that with this meeting coming up on Friday, that the market could drop. It's also very, very interesting that the timing of this accumulation took place as the market was dropping down into the $25,000 to $26,000 range, and then the BlackRock ETF launched, and then whoever is owning this wallet ended up making a ton of money. Again, if you look at the wallet address, you can see that the wallet address made an exorbitant amount of money because much of this cryptocurrency had been transferred here since before the actual rally we saw on June 15th. That's one of the main reasons why I want to kind of dispel the idea that BlackRock is the one that did this. This does not look like buying activity. This looks like transaction activity, and there's a bit of a difference. You can even see it right here in the chart itself. If these were purchases for Bitcoin, then you would be expecting that the valuation would be going much higher, since Bitcoin went through a giant rally back here around June. Bitcoin went through this massive rally, And so you would expect that the price of this would actually go much, much higher. It didn't. It did rally, but ultimately, this looks like transactions into a wallet. Could it be some exchange centralizing holdings? Could it be Gemini? Could it be Cointelegraph? Could it be Robinhood? Could it be Binance? Could it be Coinbase? Absolutely. But ultimately, I think we're going to have to wait longer to see potentially BlackRock trying to get into Bitcoin itself. That being said, I do believe that BlackRock will end up being an institutional holder of Bitcoin. And I think that when we do see that announcement, that will send Bitcoin through the freaking moon. Mike Lowry said it's my wallet. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, Mike Lowry. Let's cut the stream. Don't want to accidentally reveal you. All right. The good news is, guys, that whoever this is obviously someone who believes very, very heavily in the Bitcoin and the cryptocurrency market. All right. People are telling me that they said that they're seeing reports that it's Gemini that bought the $3 billion. That's possible. Okay, I'll look into that. That very well may be. All right, so let's go ahead and look at the event coming up on Friday. That, of course, being the effective federal, Jerome Powell, the chairman of the Federal Reserve, coming to the Jackson Hole Economic Symposium. So again, this is a symposium of the world's elite investors, not investors, policymakers and economists and central bankers around the world. And so last year we saw this this sort of, how should we say, lack of optimism, not fear, but this timidity around being overly optimistic coming out of Jerome Powell, because he was worried about saying that he was optimistic about the outlook of the market. Now, the market and the economy has actually performed very well over the course of the last 12 months, but there are still likely going to be more rate hikes coming up in the next several months. And the effective federal funds rate could easily climb higher than 5.25%, especially since inflation has not cooled down to under 3.2%. In fact, it's probably going to go up. So when we do see that Jackson Hole summit, we're likely going to see a big movement happening on Bitcoin. So it's been kind of a slow news week. This is really the only thing that we have to look forward to for volatility. There's not much going on in the news. So let's take a look for a while here at the technical analysis of everything. And by the way, guys, remember, technical analysis is the absolute best way to understand what the market is trying to tell you. And just a reminder, technical analysis averages out everything. If you go back to the Dow theory of investment, the markets, the prices, the averages average everything. The S&P 500, the Dow Jones, the Bitcoin price, all of these prices average out everything. Everything that happens that impacts this market reflects in the price. And so if you want to see whether or not something is relevant to the price of Bitcoin, then you go and look at the price of Bitcoin. It sounds like a tautological argument, but that's because it's the core argument, right? When you get down to the bottom of something, when you ask why enough times, eventually you get to, because that's just the way it is. Like, why is the sky blue? You can say, well, because there's molecular interference with the way that the sunlight travels and bends through and refracts through the Earth's atmosphere. Okay, well, why does that happen? Well, you have these molecules and they refract the Earth's light in certain ways. And okay, well, why is a molecule there? Okay, well, because it's there. Why is the molecule there? Because the molecule's there. It's a tautological argument, right? Tautology, it's a circular reasoning, but it's actually a true reasoning. It's there because it's there. There's just nothing else you can say. It just is. It just is. And so it's a similar thing when you get to the basis of all analysis. You get down to saying everything that impacts the market impacts the market. And so therefore you look at the market and you do analysis on that market to try and understand where the market is going, especially if you're doing shorter term analysis. Technical analysis is still important, and finding levels are still important as you move on to longer term perspectives, but that's where you just start dollar cost averaging, hold the market for 10, 15, 20, 30 years. You'll be good. But especially if you're doing doing trading, technical analysis is a must. So let's see how we can be prepared for Friday. First thing I want to do, again, remind you, we had this trade set up yesterday. We talked about what happens if Bitcoin does move to the downside, and we gave it a higher likelihood that Bitcoin would move to the downside, then move to the upside, because the trend is your friend until it ends. The trend has not ended, so we have the short movement here. Was our more likely option. Gave that about a 60% likelihood. That's what Bitcoin did. Bitcoin did actually move down here, and you would have made money on this trade. Now, as we move forward towards Friday, we can start to ask ourselves the question, okay, how do we be prepared for a market movement coming in on Friday from the volatility? Well, the first thing that we need to do is we need to perceive what the market is doing. We need to take a look at the broader context of the market. Remember the story. So the story so far this year has been a story of resurgence. It's been like a phoenix from the ashes of the collapse of FTX, and Sam Bankman-Fried is still trying to get out of his punishment by pleading ignorance. It's very interesting. If you've been following the, I'm so sorry, I'm not on the chart. It's very interesting what he's been trying to get away with and saying, I just didn't know any better. I just didn't know what I did. I didn't know it was fraud. I didn't know it was fraud. I didn't know. Well, if you run somebody over with a car and you didn't see them, you still ran them over with a car and they're still in the hospital. There's still consequences, right? So from the ashes of the collapse of FTX, Bitcoin has begun to be reborn from a price action standpoint, like a phoenix from the ashes. And we've seen a plethora of very bullish news events this year. More recently, we saw the SEC, for the most part, losing its case against XRP. We've also seen the BlackRock ETF be announced. We've also seen CPI and inflation start to come down, which has led to major rallies on Bitcoin. At the same time, we've seen continuing adoption from people that have been a little bit skeptical about the market, but now they see that Bitcoin was able to set a higher high above $25,000 here in March, and they were very excited about that. We've seen plenty of bullish stories taking place this year to signal that adoption is not only still happening, but is expected to accelerate, especially towards the next 8 to 10 months as we approach the halving. So that's kind of our perception of things. The other thing that I want to help you see is that the Lux Algo has been remarkable at predicting this market so far this year. Every time we've had a major buy signal, a confirmed buy signal, the market has rallied quite well. There have been a couple of exceptions where you literally were in the market for like a day. These are the exceptions towards the end of trends. These are counter trades. You can see right here, we did have a buy signal. We did have green trend catcher. You got in here probably about halfway through the candlestick. You would have made 8%. Lux Algo gave you a great trade there. Happy to see that. Over here, there was a buy signal, and we were only in that trade for about, you would have only been in that for about 12 to 36 hours, but it was technically profitable, even if it was very, very small. Now, it might have been hard to actually profit on that because you wouldn't have known when exactly to exit. But over the course of the year, in general, especially if you exclude these kind of blips in the radar right here, that were essentially just continuations. The reason that this buy signal wasn't very significant was because this sell signal really was not something that we would have taken very seriously just yet. The reason that this buy signal was not very significant was because Bitcoin had not really rallied far enough. I remember when this happened, we were like, no, there's buy signal, there's a confirmation, but things just don't look quite as bullish as they need to. So if we look at the three major bullish signals so far this year, we can see that they have rallied Bitcoin 47%. These are ranges. These are not the exact numbers. Somewhere in this range. 35%. And then 17%. Those are declining returns, but they are still absolutely true. Same thing with the Lux Algo sell signals. The last two Lux Algo sell signals, last two major Lux Algo sell signals have done a great job. This sell signal dropped to 17%. This sell signal dropped to 13% in a week. So we need to pay very close attention to Lux Algo. A couple of things to update here are that since Bitcoin has dropped so far, trend catcher is continuing to drop, which is good. We want trend catcher to get very low because if it does, then that makes it easier for Bitcoin to have a confirmed buy signal. Confirmed buy signal would likely represent a major rally beginning on Bitcoin. We see that there is a take profit zone down here where Lux Algo originally predicted we would drop to. That prediction, just for context, remember guys, Lux Algo is just an absolutely remarkable technical indicator. At the very beginning of this candlestick, we had trend catcher confirmation. If we move back to the candlestick where we saw the right here, we saw Lux Algo sell signal come in. We had not seen the trend catcher yet because it needs one candlestick to actually occur. But we could see we were breaking below this uptrend, and the take profit was already in place. It would have been in place on the day. This is part of the replay tool functionality on TradingView showing up here. But you can see the take profit was right here, and we instantly went there. Now, of course, this movement happened very quickly, so you didn't have much time to jump into that. But if you're watching the market like a hawk like we do, then you would have been able to get in that trade. Now, since we've hit this take profit, And we could technically still go lower. There is another opportunity for Bitcoin to drop below its current level of support and drop down to as low as 22,808. If that occurs, a couple of things will probably happen. Number one, Bitcoin will probably bounce with a vengeance. Number two, you might actually see BlackRock buy Bitcoin. BlackRock is eventually going to have to fund the custodianship for that ETF. It's a spot Bitcoin ETF, so they have to buy Bitcoin for the spot Bitcoin ETF. If they buy the Bitcoin in advance, think about it like this, and this is why I originally did actually entertain the idea that, okay, maybe this is BlackRock. Come to find out, it doesn't seem like it is, and I didn't think it was anyway before we even heard about those reports, but BlackRock buying Bitcoin down at 25, 23, 22, if BlackRock did buy down there, and then they do get the ETF approved in, say, 2 years, when Bitcoin's trading at $100,000, then they have the ability to sell that Bitcoin to the purchasers of the ETF, i.e. their clients, at a 3 times markup, at a 2.5 times markup, make a massive amount of money, 30, 40, 50% year over year, exceptionally beat the market, make a ton of money, and then also have a proven track record to start off the ETF to say, hey, our ETF made us money, it made our clients money, we're excited to share this, and this is our introduction of an ETF into the cryptocurrency, into the stock market, and into the traditional financial space. So, I would not be at all surprised to see BlackRock accumulating OTC down here around 23,000 if we do drop down that low, because I believe BlackRock filing this ETF is basically a guarantee at this point that we will eventually see a Bitcoin ETF. More of a question of when rather than if. The question of when, the answer to that is more than likely when Gary Gensler is no longer the chairman of the SEC, because he is so vehemently hostile to the entire idea. Despite everyone who is filing ETFs, BlackRock, VanEck, ARK, even the Winklevoss twins tried to file one. They've all done a relatively good job of trying to show the custodianship, having surveillance sharing agreements, and everything required to get an ETF approved. So, looking at the chart, could we drop lower? Absolutely. Am I in favor of the idea of us dropping lower? To be honest with you, I would not be at all surprised if we did drop down to 25,100. The safer bet is to bet with the trend until you have confirmation that it has ended. That's going to lead to you being wrong a little bit early sometimes, but we're trying to build a trading and investment strategy here that works for the long run. And in the long run, the best thing you can do is bet with the trend. You typically want to be contrarian to the public and the public opinion and the FUD, but if you bet with the trend is oftentimes going against what the public thinks. So betting with the trend and against the sentiment is oftentimes one of the best things that you can do. The trend right now is down. That is in correlation with the drop, that had been in correlation with the drop that was taking place on the stock market. But the stock market bouncing could be a great sign here that we're going to see a rally relatively soon. And then also, of course, Dixie is rallying very aggressively. Rallying Dixie, dropping stock market. It is no surprise that Bitcoin ended up falling through this support. Bitcoin and the stock market, the S&P and the Dixie had been very negative. If you'll remember, there's a negative correlation between the Dixie, the dollar currency index, and Bitcoin. When the dollar currency index is going up, Bitcoin's going down. When the dollar currency index is going down, Bitcoin's going up. These are things that we want to keep in mind. When the stock market, the S&P specifically, is going down, Bitcoin's going down. When the S&P is going up, Bitcoin is going up. Right now, the stock market has been going down, meaning Bitcoin's going down, and the Dixie's been going up, which means Bitcoin's going down. So it makes sense that we're seeing that drop taking place on Bitcoin over the last week. The good news, the S&P 500 just found a massive level of support at 430 points. We saw a sell signal from LuxAlgo coming in here, gave us a price target down here below $434. That's exactly where we went. Shout out to LuxAlgo. It got this prediction, this trade right. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful news. If the stock market does start to bounce here and doesn't create a head and shoulders pattern, which is absolutely possible here, we need to pay very close attention to that and hope that doesn't happen. So long as that doesn't happen and Bitcoin does manage to go, the stock market does manage to go back into a rally, and considering the fact that the Dixie is probably going to get rejected here somewhere relatively soon. It might even be all the way up to 105, but eventually will more than likely get rejected. That's where you start to see the first stages of the reversal for Bitcoin. So is the reversal here yet? No, I don't think so. In fact, I would not be at all surprised to see some sentiment of, hey guys, look, We just can't guarantee that we're going to pause rates yet. We can't guarantee that we are at this rate ceiling. There may be more rate hikes depending on the data coming in, is what Jerome Powell may say on Friday. If he says that, I think that will drive some FUD into the space because people are going to think, oh man, CME Group is predicting that we're not going to see a rate hike. I thought the ceiling was here. I thought that the market was topped out. I thought that we were done with the rate hikes. And then when Jerome Powell kind of douses that idea, I think that could be quite bearish for Bitcoin. So I would not be at all surprised to see one more drop coming out of Bitcoin over the next 3 to 4 days, especially after the Jackson Hole Summit Symposium. From there, though, I think we'll be starting to move into bottoming territory. One more drop based on what happens with Jackson Hole, and at some point relatively soon, moving through the end of this month, I think we'll start seeing our bottom, and then we'll be able to start a rally, hopefully sometime in mid-ish September, somewhere in there. All right, let's read chat for a second. Really appreciate all of you guys tuning in. All right. Satoshi Nakamoto said, I'm staying sober just in case you find me. All right. So did BlackRock buy the BTC? I don't think they did. There was plenty of people. I think there were plenty of people that were thinking BlackRock bought the BTC. I don't think that they were the ones that actually did. I think that it was probably an exchange. That being said, I thought it was interesting to talk about because I think that BlackRock probably will end up buying Bitcoin, and I think they probably will end up being one of the largest institutional holders of Bitcoin for their clients when that ETF does get approved. I think that it will get approved. If you don't know the history of BlackRock, BlackRock is the company that made ETFs. You think about some of the biggest companies, Vanguard, BlackRock. Well, Vanguard basically revolutionized index funds. BlackRock basically revolutionized ETFs. That's like, if you want it simply, there you go. Boom. You got Jack Bogle. He built Vanguard out of basically nothing. He came to Wellington Wealth Management at 1949, I think it was. Several years later, took over. They merged, went with Ivest. He got kicked out, so he went and took over as the president of a company, the Wellington Fund, and then he changed the name to Vanguard. And then he grew Vanguard in this giant fund because he had this idea that, you know what, it's very difficult to beat the market unless you are a professional trader, and the vast majority of people will not beat the market, was his concept. And so you build an index fund and you sit there and you wait and you give it 5, 10, 15, 20 years, and tens of millions of people got rich off of that idea, got very wealthy off of that idea. And so he built the first major index fund that went to over $1 billion in value, and so now index funds are everywhere. Hopefully you have some index fund investment. It's a very good thing to be diversified outside of just cryptocurrency for the sake of long-term wealth preservation and generation. But then you had BlackRock come onto the scene much later. It's founded by 7 individuals. Larry Fink was the chief among them. Larry Fink had gone through this massive trading loss, lost $100 million in trading in one quarter, despite having made $130 million in trading the previous quarter. His reputation was ruined, but he was determined not to stay down. So he ended up partnering and founding something called Blackstone. It would later be renamed BlackRock. And so they have $9.5 trillion in assets under management to this day. When they started, they had $5 million in AUM. Then about 5 years later, they had $8 billion in assets under management. Massive return for BlackRock. And then they started to revolutionize ETFs. And ETF trading became the big thing because people wanted to be able to trade baskets of stocks like a stock on the stock market. So they wanted to be able to say, hey, I'm going to trade this ETF with 300 companies in it, and I'm going to trade it down to the minute. And it's going to be a representation of it's going to have an actual trading price based on, of course, the underlying value of the companies in the ETF divided by the total number of outstanding ETF shares. And so BlackRock revolutionized ETFs. They're the ones that put ETFs on the map. Vanguard really put index funds on the map. BlackRock put ETFs on the map. And so if anybody is going to get the first ETF in Bitcoin, as much as you may disagree with the extent of the power of BlackRock, it would make sense for them to be the one to get the ETF because the SEC knows that they are the reigning king of ETFs. So keep that absolutely in mind. All right. Good deal. Let's see. Oh man. So my point is, I believe that BlackRock will eventually buy Bitcoin because they are eventually going to be in the ETF game with Bitcoin. I think that is a guarantee. I don't think that that is something that is going to be something that we need to debate. I think it's almost a certainty that we're going to see BlackRock having a Bitcoin ETF. I think it's just a matter of time. But when that does occur, then we're going to see quite a lot of adoption coming in to Bitcoin. And we're going to see a massive, massive, massive flood of money into this space. And I think that's something that we absolutely cannot ignore. So, did BlackRock just buy $3 billion worth of Bitcoin? No. That's what you're seeing people talk about. I don't believe that was. I don't believe that it was BlackRock. I think it's probably an exchange wallet, and it makes sense because exchanges, similar to banks, have assets, or investment banks and, these asset managers like Vanguard and BlackRock, they have assets under management. They are not so much managing, but they have custody of the funds that their clients deposit, their client deposits. And so they've got to put that money somewhere, and so they're going to hold that money theoretically in a wallet. The other reason why I don't think this is BlackRock, just another thing to kind of throw in there, I don't think BlackRock would put all of their eggs in one basket. I mean, what happens to that if something happens to that one wallet? I've always thought it was weird that companies will put $3 billion worth of money into one wallet. What happens if the private keys get out? Whew. You want to talk about a hacking nightmare. Talk about somebody accidentally exports those keys onto a laptop and it gets stolen. Oh my goodness. Because you're not getting it back. There's no way to get it back. It's gone. So it stands to reason to me that whoever owns this wallet also owns Bitcoin in other wallets because of diversification. If they've got $3 billion in one wallet, they probably have $3 billion in another wallet, which means it is probably a company that's holding at least $5 to $10 billion worth of Bitcoin at the very least. What wallet do you think they're using when putting all that in one wallet? I don't know. That's a good question. That's a very good question. They probably have it in just a straight up. They probably don't have it in like a Ledger or a Trezor or a Tangent. They probably have it just straight up generated through the actual blockchain itself. All right. China's real estate will make crypto winter till 2027. I don't think so. I think that Chinese real estate is going to go absolutely belly up. If you guys don't know, there's only really one way to make money in China through investment, and that's investing in property. That's led to a gigantic, massive amount, a massive bubble. Huge bubble in the real estate market over in China. About 75% of household wealth in China is locked up in real estate. And most people have 2 to 3 homes that some of them are empty. In fact, you basically can't get married in China unless you own like 2 houses. If you're a man, unless you own like 2 houses. It's very difficult to get married in China because there are so many more women than there are men. So if you're a man, you've really got to be able to stand out because of the one-child policy. Everybody would, how shall I say this in a polite way? Unfortunately, people wouldn't want their daughters because they wanted a man who would take care of them into the old age because of the culture of, the young kids take care of the elders. So they wanted a man that would take care of them. And so you had horrible atrocities take place where just millions of girls had horrible things done to them. And so you have this massive amount of men that don't have a woman that typically there would be. So you have all these men investing in a bunch of real estate because the only way for them to get a woman to be interested in them is by having a higher net worth or more rental properties or whatever than somebody else. So it's like there's like 100 million Graham Steffens running around and they're like, oh, look at me. I got my 9 properties. Come marry me. Like, it's very difficult to... Anyway, it's interesting. So is the property crisis over in China going to crash Bitcoin? I don't think so right now. China's already on this way out. China's already screwed. Just so we can talk about that more in a future piece of content, but it's done. China's screwed. Sounds like FTX. Let's take everyone's money and run. I doubt it. FTX is in control of the custody again. John J. Ray III is the one in charge of the bankruptcy proceedings of the company. All right. Really appreciate all of you guys tuning in. If you did enjoy today's stream, make sure to hit that like button. Also, make sure to subscribe to the channel and sign up for Lux Algo. I showed you how powerful it was today. You can use coupon code JEB30, that's JEBB 30 for 30% off at checkout. And also make sure to tune in to Club DeFi. It's where I teach you guys everything that I know about technical analysis. Really excited to share it with you. If you guys want to learn more about technical analysis, that's a resource that you guys can find with the link in the description box down below. Very simple to find. Go to cryptojeb.com. Hit this button right here, enroll now, hit join the club. Boom, there you are. Principles of Technical Analysis. Nice and easy to find. And if you're interested, you can also come over here and navigate through our website and find out some information about us if you're interested in that. Like I said, guys, going to have to wrap it out, but I do really appreciate all of you guys for tuning in. Before I go, I do just first want to thank each and every single last one of you for watching, as always, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.